Thank you. I'm sitting, actually, but, same thing. Let's take a closer look at this game. Unicorns going full unicorns, as Trevor already said. Trying something new, and even if it was 100% serious or knowing that it would succeed or not, we have to evaluate it that way. And it just didn't work out because Power of Evil didn't get rolling, and that might have been the case on any champion.
It's a little bit of a weird setup for them because you had the fish, so we knew there's going to be spade pushing going on. And then normally if you have like a spade pusher, you want to have some sort of wave clear in the mid lane or some sort of siege potential. Cho'Gath, while he can clear the waves, they need to sit tight, wait for him. And when there's a Jinx, she's going to hit that tower multiple times before he clears the wave out. So the setup itself didn't allow Unicorns to fall behind. Because if Cho'Gath falls behind and he's forced to sit and be a wave clear bot, he's not going to do a whole lot. Grace is the same deal. And because Gambit also ran so much hard engage, like the Vi, the Maokai, you can always dive onto the Cho'Gath and just, force him to deal all his damage onto the tanks and nothing else. So once Unicorns fell behind, they couldn't really use the spade pushing that effectively. They couldn't defend their lanes, and that's why Gambit could just keep picking fights over and over and catch up Power of Evil.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting thing when you look at Unicorns of Love as a team when they play through games. When Power of Evil doesn't get ahead, we've discussed this many, many times. When Power of Evil doesn't get ahead, it's a very different Unicorns of Love that are actually in the game. And I saw him playing Cho'Gath on his main account a little bit, and I poked him earlier in the week and said, hey, you're playing Cho'Gath, you're bringing him to mid. He was pretty confident, actually, in his Cho'Gath. We'd never really saw him get to that point. He was shut down fairly early on and never got maximum stacks. He was going for a bit more of a scaling build in that game. So he never just got into the game at all.
No, the big difference really in the mid lane, it wasn't the one-on-one matchup itself, because that was just a farm fest. It was more the Betsy was so much better at roaming than Power of Evil this game. The first roam onto the top side where Power of Evil tried to dive the tower with Capo shot, Betsy comes up, gets a double kill. Then he goes bottom lane, gets another kill. Power of Evil just sitting in the mid lane saying, I'm basically forced to just farm now. And once again you fall behind on that Cho'Gath, you don't really add a whole lot of value to your team, and that was a problem.
Yeah, same with that Fizz, actually, as we criticized Airwax last week because the Fizz takes a long time to get rolling. Vizicachi did get some kills early, but he couldn't really do anything. Had some strange teleports. He wasn't really split pushing. It just was a lot of nothing.
Yeah, the teleports, the later teleports from Vizicachi were partly to do with the fact that Gambit were kind of just pressuring everything, and he felt like he had to do something. You saw him teleport into a dragon fight after the dragon had already gone. He was 1v3. Very strange teleport. He could have utilized it a lot better if it had just been split pushing, but they were applying so much pressure, he couldn't actually go over to the side lanes and sit there like he had been doing for the first 20 minutes.
Surprise Shark is the deadliest, but it wasn't.
It wasn't, no.
Yeah, what do we... this hasn't decided anything in terms of Unicorns of Love and Gambit yet. They still have to play tomorrow, but if it was foreshadowing, if it's a game that we're going to see in playoffs, I dare to say it's going to go a total different direction.
I think that's safe to say. I mean, it's the best out of 5, so yes, they might run a comp like this in the first game, realize, oh, it didn't work, or it was basically too dependent on us winning the early game to really snowball the lead here and maybe change it up, but Unicorns of Love is a team that I would never want to face in a best out of 5. Just because you have this list of 50 champions and you're like, okay, we can ban every single one of them, or they can just randomly pick some of it and suddenly we see a Yorick Cassiopeia combo, suddenly we see the split pushing Fizz coming in, and preparing for that is tough. And that's what Gambit is going to have to show in the playoffs, that they can adapt to basically everything.
Yeah. But we will see. We're not there yet. There's still 1 day left in the spring split. That means it all comes down to the wire tomorrow as the teams want to get their hand on especially that last playoff spot. So let's take a look at the standings and what we have on our hands here. Of course, the top 2 spots and the first round buys for SK Gaming and Fnatic, who basically have been on the top of the table for the entire season so far. Then the middle of the table, 1 spot up for grabs between the Copenhagen Wolves and Elements. And at the bottom, of course, Giants and Meet Your Makers to fight versus auto relegation. Trevor said it's going to be the Copenhagen Wolves in that 100%. They do have that matchup versus Giants.
They do, and yes, the Wolves will be the favorites, but I think Giants have shown enough times now that they can come back even if they fall behind. So if they have a weak early game, which they normally don't, it's kind of weird. They're normally good in the laning phase, and then they don't really know what to do in the mid game, and that's where it hurts them. Copenhagen Wolves is exactly the same. They're really good in the early game, and then they need 30-40 minutes to finish out the game. So we're going to have most likely a back and forth. There can be a lot of Baron throws, I think it's safe to say. So I don't think it's a guaranteed Copenhagen Wolves win. I think they're favorites, and yeah, they can decide their own fate now. but Giants can play spoiler for sure.
Yeah, never say never.
Indeed. Copenhagen Wolves very good in the early game. What a difference a split makes. But now that we're in the home stretch of this split, the Copenhagen Wolves, as said, have really turned it on as they try and track down the last remaining spot in the spring playoffs. And with 12 kills, 10 assists, and a triple kill earlier today against Roccat, their mid laner Soren is today's Fantasy LCS leader, racking up a total of 45 points, putting them on his back.
It helps if you go 60 minutes in your games to get a lot of fantasy points.
Technicalities.
I guess the Copenhagen Wolves players or the Copenhagen Wolves fans can be happy about that one. But yeah, Soren, steady mid laner. I think that's safe to say.
Yeah, steady mid laner doing good
What do
in
you
this
think
one
actually
with
stress
Freeze
of
as well.
Soren?
So Soren, when he came just kind of out of nowhere and everyone was calling him Mini Bjergsen, I think there was a lot of hype that was undeserved. But
One
this
person called him
season-
Mini Bjergsen. Our producer. And that's basically it.
This season, however, he's actually grown a fair amount. When you look at his games, as you said, he's become steady. I pretty much agree with you that never do I go into a game and think, man, Soren really dropped the ball on this one.
Yeah. Mini Bjergsen, but he's a bit taller and buffer than Bjergsen.
And older as well.
And older
hey,
as
whatever.
well. It doesn't matter. Soren, he may carry your fantasy team at the end of the week, but Mr. Rawls today, he was definitely looking to make the big moves. We have a tweet from @CreepersManiacs. He noticed he wrote MLG Rallis confirmed. Here's today's LCS big play.
Having to move out, and it was a very, very messy little fight. Let's see what the Rocket can do.
Oh!
Oh!
Nice run. Rallies, let's go, baby.
All right.
Let's go indeed. A little bit of an assist to Sven Skaren in his own death there. Moves forward into the bush. But hey, certainly it's a flashy play, and you don't see that every day.
It was pretty important play because it would have meant they could take the dragon, but then MYM decided to walk in and kind of get caught out and die. But the play itself was pretty cool, and Mr. Rallis showed that he's still a good carry.
Yeah, fantastic shot there from him. Remember to keep sending in your favorite moments, of course, at LL Esports with that hashtag LCS Big Plays, and we'll check out your most tweeted ones tomorrow. And talking about tomorrow, we will be down to the last day of the spring split, where we'll start things off with the Copenhagen Wolves and Giants gaming that very important match all at the beginning. Fnatic will have their matchup versus Elements. Meet Your Makers will face Roccat, and we'll end the spring split with H2K versus the Unicorns of Love. Fantastic matchup. Starting off the fee show with the Copenhagen Wolves versus Giant, it's going to be game on for them straight from the top of the day.
Yeah, and it's going to kind of suck for Elements and Rocket if they see the Wolves win the first one and be like, oh, okay, that's it. Or I guess Rocket is already out of the playoffs, but for Elements then, they're obviously
Still going to
looking
suck
at the game.
for Roccat.
Still going to suck for Rocket, that's for sure. But Giants must-win game. If they lose, I think MYM can take down Rocket later on in the day. So if Giants lose the first one, it's out of their hands. And then if Rocket manages to lose to MYM, that's it. Giants are out of the LCS, MYM in the promotion tournament, obviously. So, very important matchups. Last one doesn't really add too much unless the Unicorns want to try and catch up to Gambit here, but they obviously play early in the day and can also decide if they want to get that first.
Yeah. In any case, a lot of interesting matchups, and it all begins tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central European Time. That is 10 a.m. Pacific. And that's all we have today from Berlin. On behalf of myself, our guest analyst, Stress, and congratulations, by the way, and the European LCS team, thank you so much for tuning in. And with the potential for tiebreakers high, it could be a long one tomorrow, so rest up, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow for the exciting conclusion of the Spring Split.